Hello, and welcome to Joe Glass Comics. I'm Joe Glass, comics writer and creator, here to tell you yet again, another week, what comic books I've been reading and loving and enjoying. So yeah, without much further ado, let's get into it. First up was Planet-Sized X-Men #1, a one-shot and sort of a big part of the Hellfire Gala event, which is going on in the X-Men line of books at the moment, which was written by Jerry Duggan, with art by Pepe Larraz, Martha Garcia on the colours, and the letters were by Clayton Coles. Honestly, just amazing. Like, this is how you do superhero comics, but also like just sci-fi comics as a whole, because it's like really big ideas, really big surprises. Like, every page kind of has a wow moment on it. So like literally every part of it was just absolutely stunning. Without going into too many spoilers, because like for me, the whole point of this channel is not to spoil you and tell you what happens in the comics, is to make you just go out and buy them and read them. The big things which people were thinking were going to happen, we included myself, like I was kind of thinking this was the way it was going, did happen, but not in the way that everyone thought, and I think that's really interesting. It sort of managed to deal with a sort of overhanging plot thread from one of the last events in the X-Men books, and also kind of set up this whole new potential for dozens of new story avenues that they could go down. And that's what, you know, comics like this, events and like one-off big special standalone issues and things like that should do. They should set up whole new lines of story avenues that, you know, are just waiting to be explored. Everyone working on this is doing their absolute top game in the book, and like none more so perhaps than Pepe Larraz and Martha Garcia, who are working together to create some of the most spectacular visuals I have seen in modern comics in years. Like, honestly, this is like the god tier team of X-Men comics at the moment. I'm so excited every time they have a new issue, which they're both on, and everything about this makes me just so excited for the X-Men line and the new X-Men book, which obviously this team's pretty much all running on, coming next month. So yeah, this is going to be super exciting. If you are into the X-Men books, then this is the book you want to be getting. It is really big, high concept science fiction, so if you just like science fiction stories and like things which are like high concept, big ideas, then again, Planet-Sized X-Men is definitely for you. Next up, we have Venom issue 35, which in the legacy numbering places it as the 200th issue of Venom. As such, it's an oversized issue, so you actually get lots of story in this book, lots of bang for your buck, as it were. It is, however, a high price point, but yeah, you're getting lots for it. It involves, obviously, Donny Cates on the writing, culminating his now iconic run on the character, along with his cohorts, Ryan Stegman, JP Mayer and Frank Martin, as well as numerous other artists and creators who have been part of Venom's wider history and also this current Venom arc that is now really coming to its end. Again, I'm not going to get into spoilers, but there are major changes for Venom and Eddie Brock going forward, which were quite unexpected. So yeah, it's been really, really fantastic to see. It's a really brilliant end to this run on the character, and I'm excited to see where the new creators who are coming on board will take it going forward. Something I'll say about this run on Venom is Venom is not a character who's particularly ever interested me. He's very much not my bag, as it were. Not that he's a bad character or anything like that, but you know, not everyone's gonna like everything, and for me, Venom was one of those who is a cool design and, you know, has fun moments, but like he didn't really have an awful lot to grab me and make me want to sort of grab everything with him in. What Donny managed and his team managed to do was create an emotional core and heart to Eddie Brock and Venom, and the story which actually really connected me to it and made me actually excited to read Venom books. And that's awesome. If you can come into a book or a character or a series and create this hook that now grabs new people into coming in and finding a reason to love that character, perhaps even if it's the reason you love the character, or maybe not the reason you love the character, It's really, really exciting and awesome to do, and that really should be the goal, I think, of anyone sort of coming on board any of these long-running IPs, is to sort of come in and be like, what does this character mean to you? What can you say with them? Venom 200 is a great read. You get absolutely everything in there, even set up for future stories, not just the future of Venom, but some spin-off stories which are clearly coming down the line with Marvel. Plus you get like a big gallery of covers, so you can actually make sense of how they came to Venom 200, because there hasn't been a single book just called Venom for 200 issues. But like, they have a whole way of working out the legacy numbering. For those who like are new to comics, don't really understand that, don't worry. This is actually fairly self-explanatory issue, so if you want to pick up this one, you get on just fine. And of course, there's always going to be a new story arc starting soon, which is going to be a perfect jumping on point as well. Next up, I had Static Season 1, issue number 1, which is written by Vita Ayala. Art layouts were done by Chris Cross, with finished artwork by Nicholas Draper-Ivy, and anvil design on the letters. This is a really great introduction to a character. Now, anyone who sort of is familiar with Static knows that Static isn't a new character, has actually been around for a while and has various points being part of DC continuity, being part of his own universe, there's been his own TV show. So like, Static is a long-running character, but this is a fresh start on it, as the milestone universe of characters are sort of being given a new sort of lease on life in DC Universe. What Vita and team really do well here is they give you an in to the character, so that whether you know the character and are familiar with his history, or whether the character is completely new to you, you've never heard of him, you kind of get everything you need here, and not just in the sense of like knowing what his powers are. I mean, like, the name alone should give you the idea that he had electricity powers, but you get the idea of what makes Virgil Hawkins tick. What's more is it does it all without any sort of extraneous exposition, which is like taking up the pages or time or anything. Instead, it just gives you the information you need on the fly pretty lightly, but enough that you actually get everything you need. You know who this guy is. You know who his friends are. Like, you kind of get that feeling right away. The artwork is spectacular on it, with some really great designs, and you get the idea that Draper-Ivy actually has a real smart idea or an eye for fashion design as well, because like, the things the teens are wearing, because like most of the characters in this book are teens, look like teenagers. Like, they don't look like really dated ideas of what a teenager would wear. They look like what teenagers would wear now, and that's great. Like, it's pretty rare actually that you get that in comics, but it's really, really fantastic to see, because it makes it feel like you're getting this whole new fresh world to really jump into, and I'm really excited to see where the series continues. Finally, I want to talk about, from Boom Studios, The Many Deaths of Laila Starr from Ram V and Philippe Andrade. This series has been spectacular. Like, literally, there's, 3 issues already, and so far, like, every issue has been out of this world spectacular. It has nearly always contained moments which have actually brought me to tears, because of how it effuses the feelings of the situation and the story that it's telling you through its words. It's such a brilliant and intelligent conceit as well. And what's most exciting about it, and I think which is making it the most interesting thing for me to see, is this is a world I've never seen before, or I feel like I've never seen before. It's very much set in its own sort of culture, in its own kind of, in its own region of the world that we never really get to see. Not just in comics, but in a lot of media. So it's really exciting to read, because it feels like, again, you're getting a fresh, new world to explore, but in such a way that it's entirely accessible. Like, you know exactly what's going on, you feel exactly like you know exactly what is happening. This particular issue has yet another incredibly wild, out there, brilliant concept, in that it is narrated from the point of view of a cigarette. And that sounds insane. And it kind of is, but it's so insane, but it works, and it works brilliantly. The big thing I would always say about Ramvi's writing is it's so lyrically poetic. Like, every inch of it drips with this sort of sense of intelligence and just absolute beauty in it feels like poetry how it's done. And he's always worked really well with the artists that he's worked with, because the artist's work then complements that and creates almost this poetic meter and movement through the page turns and through the panel work, and you get something that feels elevated as a result. Obviously, it is, again, I'm not going to be telling spoilers, but like the big conceit of it is that it is death itself has been sent to Earth to live a mortal life, given that they will no longer be needed, and how death sort of deals with that through many lifetimes, because it keeps on screwing up lifetimes without giving too much away. And it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating to read. Like I say, it feels like you're getting this whole new world and culture to take in and like really enjoy and explore, but also really explores these heady ideas of life and death and what the meaning of it is. And yet it's never too heavy. Like, those are like really big questions to be dealing with, and like it could really easily become dry, and it really never does in The Many Deaths of Laila Starr. Instead, you get something which is absolutely beautiful in every sense of the word, and really does express the ideas of life and death in such a wonderful way. Color assists were by Inez Amaro, and the letters were done by Android Design again, and Android Design actually do a really brilliant trick with the narration captions in this, because as I said, the narration is actually by a cigarette, and they really beautifully sort of illustrate that almost by having many of the captions, particularly when there's more than one caption in a panel, connect through these wispy sort of lines of smoke, like sort of connection through them, and it just sort of adds to the whole sort of idea in your head that what you're hearing here is the story of a burning out cigarette as it watches the world around it. Okay, so that's it for this week. That's what I've been reading, and that's what's been blowing me away. What have you been reading? Please let me know in the comments. Is there any particular book you'd love to see me talk about and review or check out and see what my thoughts are? Put them down there and I'll do what I can. As ever, remember there's my own comics which are available on my website, Joe Glass Comics, and you can actually now sign up for my newsletter, where you will find all the latest information and news on what I've got coming, as well as just general riffing and talking on comics industry and what's happening in the world at the moment. Also, the big release I've got is obviously the Pride Omnibus. You can actually find that in any comic book store, in any bookstore, in any online retailer. Wherever you like to get your wares, you can find the Pride Omnibus, and hopefully you will really enjoy it. So once again, thank you again so much for checking out the channel. Thanks for checking out this video. Please do give it a like, please do subscribe if you haven't already, and please do come back next week for more from Joe Glass Comics. I've been Joe Glass. Thank you so much. Love you all. Happy Pride.